Hello, hello, hello. TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. And let me just say, Loki is here, and Loki is insane. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about what is probably his best deck, kind of theory craft a little bit, and then I'll let you guys know what I think of him overall. For now, though, let's get into some gameplay. All right, we're going to hop right into some gameplay here. As you can see, I've got a Loki Dino deck here. One drops Agent 13. Quinjet. Quinjet is really going to be a star in this deck because you've got lots of ways to add cards to your hand. So getting those discounts feels amazing. Two drops, we've got Collector and Sentinel. Another huge power source is going to be the Collector with Loki, Sentinel, Coulson, Fury, Agent 13, all these cards buffing up Collector. That becomes a huge source of power. Sentinel is just a nice steady source of power, getting those that 3 power down, and then getting the discount if you've got Quinjet out. A 1-3 always feels pretty good. Now, what I like to run, I love to run Storm. I think locking down a location, or rather trying to lock your opponent out, is a huge way to go about winning a game. So I love being able to go Storm and then something like Loki Quinjet, Loki Agent, maybe Coulson Agent 13. On 4, as you can see here, we're going with the Agent Coulson, and then we've got Echo or Quinjet, but we're able to get Coulson down, get Quinjet down. Yes, a little bit unfortunate that Cyclops is going to do some damage, but it doesn't mean we are out of this game yet. And as you can see, we've got discounts on Devil Dino, on Absorbing Man. We've got discounts all over the place here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to slam that Devil Dino, Echo, but let's continue talking about the other cards in this deck. Now, we've talked about Storm. We've got Coulson to keep our hand healthy. Loki, of course, is the newest card in Marvel Snap as of today. And honestly, Loki is kind of an insane card. Being able to just get those discounts and whatever your opponent is playing feels amazing. Buffing up things like the Collector, making sure your Devil Dino is still healthy. Loki feels awesome. And then we've got Nick Fury, again, refilling your hand, making sure that Dino is healthy. We've got the Dino, another huge source of power. And then I go Dr. Doom and Chavez, and Dr. Doom for this exact reason right here. It gives us additional reach to things like Luke's Bar and things like a flooded location that you otherwise wouldn't have. So it allows you to win games that otherwise you aren't winning. So I really like the inclusion of Dr. Doom in this list. But as you can see here, finally, we've got Loki in our hand. We're on to game 2 here. As you can see by our deck list up here, we're missing all of our early game. All 6 of our early game cards are not there. Definitely frustrating, but ultimately not too big of a deal because we still have options. Loki does that for you. So being able to play him on 3, getting essentially a new hand that is discounted, gives you outs that you otherwise wouldn't see, and this game is a perfect example of that. We still haven't hit a 1 or a 2 drop. Our opponent finally plays something, but for us, now it's time to kind of figure out what we're going to do. Now, like I said, I love Storm. I think Storm is an amazing card. Anytime I get her in my hand, I'm pretty much snap playing her, especially if there's a location that hasn't been touched or a location that our opponent typically wouldn't want to play in, something like the negative zone. Typically, you're not going to play a 3-drop in the negative zone. It's just too risky. Overall, it's not a great option, but something like Storm coming down there is not bad at all. It means we're already ahead 2 power going into turn 4, and then we can decide what we want to do from there. So we do play Storm. They dropped a Daredevil and a Juggernaut. Not too bad of a play for them there, but like I said, we're ahead in negative zone here. So even though we didn't get to play till turn 3, all of a sudden we might have 1 location already wrapped up. Now we're going to go Loki and Agent 13 here. One little thing that we probably could have done is went Agent first and then Loki. Overall, not a big deal, but we do miss out on, essentially a discounted card there. But that card that we picked up, Vision, is absolutely insane. Now, they've got Daredevil, so they know what we have going on. we're able to play both Vision and Nebula. Nebula is there kind of more as a distraction, a card that, is going to be tough for them to, would be tough for them to deal with this late in the game. Not too big of a deal. It is 1 power, so we might as well get some down. We don't really want to give them a free lane. We want to at least get some power somewhere so that they have to think about if we are actually going to go there. Now, all we're doing is we're waiting to see what our opponents it has in store for us. And what is nice about this is that they played Juggernaut. Now we've got a Juggernaut going into turn 6, and that makes it really, really nice for us because we can go after either Shuri's Lab or Lemuria, and we're going to go after Shuri's Lab. Going to get Juggernaut up to 6 power, and then we've still got a discount on Brood. We can get Quinjet out there as well, and that is going to make all the difference. Vision being doubled up, we're able to toss him into that flooded zone, guaranteeing us at least 1 location. And then all they played was a Chavez. They have that open slot in Lemuria, but we end up taking Shuri's Lab, taking flooded for a really nice win here. We didn't play until turn 3. Loki giving us a couple of really nice cards, Juggernaut and Brood, being able to get that power down on turn 6 gave us that win. But this right here, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for Collector on 2, ideally Quinjet on 1, but Collector on 2, and then some way to start buffing that Collector, whether that's Coulson, Fury, Agent, Loki. We have all the options here, so our Collector potentially could win us Pet Mansion on its own. We also pick up Quinjet. And one thing that I really like about this is that because we know Collector is going to be a huge source of power, we don't mind tossing Quinjet right into that same location. Yes, it's only a 1-drop, only 2 power, but we know that our Collector is going to be a bit stronger than that. Now, they end up storming on 3. It's the first game that I'm showing y'all that I didn't have Storm, but we do have Spider-Woman, and that's a really nice follow-up. Again, the discount from Quinjet, Agent throwing us a very, very useful card, means we are in a very solid spot here. They're able to get 5 power into that flooding location, but we are up at 10 and feeling good about what we're doing here. Now, what we want to do here is start buffing that Collector and getting some discounts, giving us some other outs. We know what we've got in our hand, and right now that isn't going to get us a win. So we're going to get Sentinel down, and then we're going to Loki. Collector is going to be buffed really nicely here. We're going to get some discounts, and it's going to allow us to see what other options we have here. Scarlet Witch coming through for them is a very solid play. Not sure why they played Crawler into Killmonger, unless Crawler was already out there and I missed that. But as you can see here, going into turn 6, we're ahead in 2 lanes and tied in the other. Now we know that something like a Surfer is probably going to come through, and that's what we're going to try and take out. Collector is up at 8 power, so he's not in range of something like a Shang-Chi. We don't have any other way to add to his power, so we know he's probably safe. And now we're just trying to figure out what is the best way to play this. They snapped. We did not. We just wanted to see what was happening here. Cosmo comes out. I'm hoping that I hit that Surfer target for them. We also dropped Killmonger. We did not hit the Surfer. Mr. Fantastic comes out. Surfer comes out. But ultimately, it is not enough power, and we end up getting the victory again. I'm loving Loki right now. All right, so you've seen the gameplay, you've seen what Loki can do, you've seen what this deck can do, but let's discuss it a little bit more in depth. Now, with Loki making his way to Marvel Snap, this on reveal is absolutely insane, right? Replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck and give them -1 cost. Now, what this does is it kind of buffs 2 different cards already in the Devil Dino deck. And the first one is actually going to be Collector. He kind of gets a huge buff here, with Loki sometimes swapping out 3, 4, 5 cards, really buffing up that power for the Collector. Additionally, you're getting those discounts, and you can discount them even further with Quinjet. So even though it's still a minimum of 1, those additional discounts on 6 drops, 5 drops, even 4 drops feels amazing when you're playing for 2 and 3. So Loki really buffs up the power level of the Collector. Quinjet kind of gets a buff here. Things like Devil Dino, not too much, but this deck was already good. So you can see the rest of this list that I've got here. Agent 13, of course, we're trying to keep our hand full so that we can hit Loki. We've already talked about Quinjet and the Collector. Sentinel, just almost an auto include in any Devil Dino deck. We've got Mystique here for the Devil Dino copy. I like to include Storm. Now, I think what Storm allows us to do, you Storm on 3, you can then Loki and maybe a Quinjet, or Loki and an Agent 13 on 4, and still leave a slot open. And I do that specifically for Dr. Doom here, with him being rebuffed, or rather his Doombots being rebuffed. I think that he has found another nice spot, kind of in Marvel Snap metas here. Additionally, we've got Coulson, we've got Fury as other sources of adding cards that ideally are discounted, or just keeping our hand full for Loki, and also buffing up the Collector. Of course, Devil Dino is always going to be a star in this sort of deck. Your hand is going to stay full, so Devil Dino is huge. And then we've got Chavez for a little bit more consistent draw. But we've already talked about it a little bit. Collector, he's going to be a huge source of power, as is Devil Dino. Now, what I really like doing is going Storm on 3, Agent Loki on 4. Now, if you have to wait until 4 to Storm, then you can always go Devil Dino on 5 on curve. It feels like you win that lane, so you can play a little bit differently. You've kind of got 2 different lines here, and each of them feel really, really strong. A turn 6 of Loki, Agent Coulson sometimes is just enough to get the job done. That's 9 power while also buffing things like Collector, making sure your Devil Dino is as strong as it can be. So this deck is super, super strong right now, super hot. Tons of people playing it, especially because Loki was just added to the game. Overall, I think he's pretty insane. I think he breathes new life into this deck that has been around since essentially day 1. And I think he's a card that you can kind of just play with other decks. You don't necessarily need to play this Devil Dino deck. I could totally see him in a deck that is focusing more on kind of swarming the board. Maybe you keep Collector in there, you toss Loki in there, you get a bunch of cheap cards ideally, and are able to just play those out. Maybe you've got something like a Bishop and an Angela that you can play on, cards that you don't mind throwing away either, that are in your hand. Because that's one thing I found with him, is whatever's in your hand, sometimes you feel a little bit bad. Maybe you want to save that Dr. Doom for 6, or save that Devil Dino, but you know that you could get more value if you Loki early. So that's the one thing that I found a little bit tough with Loki, but overall he has been insane. I think he's going to fit into not only this deck perfectly, but a couple other decks as well. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Please put your thoughts on Loki and what he's going to do to Marvel Snap's meta in the comments below. And if you're still hanging out, watching the video, you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Now would be a great time to do so, and be on the lookout for more Marvel Snap content. Until the next one, have some fun.